Oh no. Ooh, spooky. Last year, the Vancouver Canucks made a really big trade, sending forward Andrei Kuzmenko, as well as two prospects in Brzustewicz and Yermo, and a first-round draft pick to the Calgary Flames in exchange for Elias Lindholm. That was probably the biggest trade we had seen all year for Vancouver. Yeah, I'm trying to think about it. Yeah, that's kind of the biggest trade that we saw, for a while at least, in the Vancouver Canucks history books, and this trade was seen by many as a huge Calgary win right off the rip. Hey, you got yourselves an amazing prospect in Brzustewicz, and Yermo is a good guy too, and Kuzmenko is a former 37-goal scorer, and he's gonna find his game back in Calgary, and Elias Lindholm was gonna leave anyway, so obviously this was a really amazing move. And then Elias Lindholm had himself a pretty good stint towards the end of his Canucks tenure. He was great in the playoffs. Fantastic against the Nashville Predators, and then pretty good against the Oilers too. But Elias Lindholm ended up leaving. Kuzmenko, Brzustewicz, Yermo, all those other assets are still in Calgary, and a lot of Flames fans were kind of being snarky about it over the past few weeks. Hey, the Canucks gave us all this stuff for a guy that ended up leaving. What an amazing trade victory. Welp, I think now is time to start holding your horses, because when you look at some of the assets that this trade involved in 2024, December of 2024, things are getting a little bit dicey. Now, the Calgary Flames do play off against the Columbus Blue Jackets later today. It's going to be a really emotional night. It's Johnny Gaudreau night. There's going to be a lot of tributes and a lot of love in the arena. But there also is a hockey game to be played. And in this hockey game, take a look at this. We had ourselves a tweet from Pat Steinberg. Andrei Kuzmenko is indeed getting healthy scratched tonight versus Columbus. He's working late after an optional morning skate. Hanley and Tyson Barrie will also sit out tonight, and Dan Vladar starts in net. Now, if you look at the Calgary Flames, they are 12-9-4 this season. That's not like, best in the league territory, but it is pretty alright, especially when you consider where people thought the Calgary Flames were going to be this season. The fact is, they are 5th overall in the Pacific Division. They're tied with Edmonton right now with one more game played, so they're doing all right, standings-wise. They had a really hot start as well, which kind of propelled them to being in this spot anyway. But all that aside, if you go over to Andrei Kuzmenko, this guy has 9 points in 25 games played this season, on pace for about 29 points in 82 games, which is really kind of just worse than what he did last year. I mean, last year, Kuzmenko had 21 points in 43 Canucks games. That's a much higher point per game pace than 29 points in 82, and he was under a point per game in Calgary after the trade. 25 points, 29 games, and of course, you take a look at that 74-point season he had in his rookie year in 22-23, and everybody was like, yeah, this is a top 6 legitimate first-line caliber forward with some skill and some goal-scoring ability. He was awesome, and now he's on pace for a really, really low productive season. He's got 1 goal in 25 games. He's on pace for 3. Kuzi is getting sat here. And a lot of Canucks fans are going out there and looking at this saying, hey, that's the thing, right? It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio in that Quentin Tarantino movie. He does the little snap, and then he looks at the TV and he points and he makes the whistle sound. I can't do the whistle sound. I can't whistle. It's kind of bad. But Canucks fans are eating well with this piece of Andrei Kuzmenko news, and it gets even better when you look at some of the other commentary here. Take a look at what Hills Noglander went out there and said on Twitter. Kuzmenko is a $5.5 million forward, and he's healthy scratched. Hunter Brzustewicz is off to an underwhelming start in the AHL. Yoni Yermo is playing in the ECHL. Meanwhile, Vancouver is enjoying $5.5 million in cap relief in Jake DeBrusk. I thought you guys fleeced us at NHL Flames. Now, if you go over to that prospect, Hunter Brzustewicz was seen by many Flames fans as the diamond in the rough, the crown jewel of the trade, because last year he had 92 points in 67 OHL games. That was a crazy year for a guy who was a third-round pick by the Vancouver Canucks the year prior. But now, Hunter Brzustewicz has 4 points in 20 games played with the Calgary Wranglers. He has not been productive. He is on pace for 14 points in 71 games. I get it, the guy is only 20 years old. He's going to get better, but wow, is this underwhelming production something of note when compared to the expectations and what people thought he'd be able to do last year? Everybody was saying he's amazing. He's going to be a top 4, maybe top 2 caliber offensively productive guy because he had all these points. I mean, 92 points is incredible in the OHL for a defenseman who's only 19. So, yeah, this is definitely not the path that we thought he would be going down. And Joni Jurmo, I was always saying this about Joni Jurmo. I always did believe that he had potential as a kind of Owen Power light-esque player. Not that he had anywhere near the same ceiling as an Owen Power, but stylistically, the way that they play. Joni Jurmo is in the ECHL right now, and to be fair, he has been productive. I mean, he's got 7 points in 9 games. Now he's back in the Calgary Wranglers system. He's got a game played, and he's got 0 points over there. So Joni Jurmo is not really looking like he's projecting too much NHL stardom into his future either. Now, of course, these are prospects. At any point, a guy like Hunter Brzustewicz can just pop off and eventually make the team next year, and he could be a fierce contributor, and Joni Jurmo could eventually become better, and he can make the team too, and he can be a puck-rushing, head-manning defenseman. He could be that and more. It's a lot less certain when talking about prospects versus when you're talking about a guy like Kuzmenko, who is already 28 years old. But at this point, I mean, look, the Canucks don't have Lindholm anymore, so it's not like this trade really set the Vancouver Canucks up for life into the future. But considering the value they got out of Lindholm in the playoffs, and considering the assets they gave up are not really doing too much in Calgary, I'd say that this is a pretty alright trade. And some of the replies on this tweet are kind of snarky. I mean, AP said this, "Glad Lindholm worked out for you guys too, bro. If you guys can't beat the Oilers in the playoffs, then what the hell are you good for?" LMFAO, what happened in 2022? Mr. Big Brain, we gave Edmonton much more of a challenge than you guys did, and now it's just name-calling here. Not to mention, the third-round pick, Son Arminio, being invited to the World Juniors, while their 9th overall pick watches from home. That, I think, is actually not fair, considering Zayne Parekh was one of the many top prospects from Team Canada's roster that they ended up leaving off because they're just too young. It's not really anything against Zayne Parekh, I would say, but it is good that Son Arminio got himself that invite. We didn't talk about that in the last video, but it is something of note. Anyways, Hunter Brzustewicz could still pan out and be the player they took with the Vancouver Canucks pick. He could still be solid as well. I'd be totally fine if Hunter and the first rounder turned into something good for Calgary. I think it was a fine move for Alvin to make. Win-win trade. And then, of course, there was the prospect that the Calgary Flames took in the 2024 NHL Draft with that Vancouver Canucks Kuzmenko pick. They took Matvei Gradin, who is not like the most impressive prospect out there, but he is pretty interesting. Playing in the USHL, he produced the lights out in that league. There have been guys who have produced like this in the USHL who ended up becoming pretty significant NHL pieces. Now he's in the QMJHL, though he's over a point per game over there. First round guy, you would expect him to be a little bit more productive in a Draft +1 season, but Matvei Gradin is still looking pretty alright. We can give him a pass for now as we wait for him to become better. But for now, when it comes to this trade, I mean, Kuzmenko isn't scoring goals, he's getting healthy scratched, Hunter Brzustewicz is not producing in the AHL, Joni Jurmo had a big cup of coffee in the ECHL, Matvei Gradin is in the QMJHL as a young prospect, and Elias Lindholm is no longer in Vancouver. So this Calgary and Vancouver trade, 1 year later at least, seems to be much of a nothing trade because none of these assets are really doing much for their teams anymore. We'll see what happens, though, later on in these guys' careers. If Kuzmenko's able to bounce back, then okay, that's good. I mean, I want to see Andrei Kuzmenko do well. He's a very good personality, and he's a funny guy, so it's easy to root for guys that are like that. But against the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight on Johnny Gaudreau Tribute Night, we are not going to be seeing Andrei Kuzmenko suit up, and this is serving as a really big ha-ha, pointing the finger and laughing moment for many Vancouver Canucks fans who are interested in seeing all this go down. We didn't even talk about the aspect of Jake DeBrusk coming back too, like $5.5 million? Yeah, that's cap relief right there, isn't it, baby? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Calgary Flames fan, what are your thoughts on Kuzmenko and the way that he's been playing as of late? Do you think that this scratch is warranted? Do you think Vancouver fans were right? And do you think Elias Lindholm's departure was enough of an incentive for you to go out there and make this sort of a move work? And do you still see the trade in high regard? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you're a Flames fan, if you're a Canucks fan, what are your thoughts about this entire thing as well? I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.